You're listening to Dilaw na Kandila, English Filipino Horror Stories. Hello everyone, I'm Eric, but everybody calls me Sir Sig, a Filipino writer and horror story host, and this is Dilaw na Kandila. On this channel, I share English Filipino horror stories that I personally write, inspired by our culture, our beliefs, and the many mysterious stories that exist in the Philippines. I grew up hearing stories about ghosts, spirits, diwata, engkanto, and other creatures from our folklore, and this channel is my way of sharing those stories with all of you. Some of the stories you'll hear here are pure horror fiction that I wrote, but many of them are also real-life experiences sent by my followers directly to my Facebook page, Dilaw na Kandila Pinoy Komiks. I read their stories, write them into narrative form, and share them here so more people can hear about these strange and terrifying experiences. I also want to be honest with you. My English is not very good, so I use Edge Translator and AI voice to help me tell my stories in English. I hope you don't mind the AI voice, but I promise you that every story on this channel is written with effort, passion, and the goal of entertaining your mind. And maybe even giving your soul a little chill. So if you enjoy horror stories, mysteries, and tales inspired by Filipino culture and folklore, you're in the right place. Turn down the lights, relax, and listen carefully.
The Warrior Legislator. The legend of Reverson, Tomas. The year was 1907 in the town of Flora, Apayao. The night was quiet. All around, the towering pine trees stood like silent sentinels watching the land. The river flowed gently, as if whispering ancient secrets carried by the wind. And in the middle of that silence, a family was being called back to its roots. This is the story of Reverson Tomas, better known by his nickname Ash. He was a lawyer from Manila, brave in the courtroom, quick with words, and almost always victorious in his cases. But behind all of that success, there was a shadow in his past he had never fully escaped. One morning, Ash received news that his grandfather's health had begun to fail. His grandfather was Datu Andres Tomas, the patriarch of their bloodline, and not just a leader, but a warrior. A protector not only against wicked men, but also against the monsters the people of their village believed roamed the land. When Ash read the letter, a cold feeling crept down his spine. The message was clear. Come home. It is time for me to pass everything to you. He sighed deeply. In Manila, Ash was a man of evidence, law, and logic. But in his province, stories of a swang, engkanto, and monsters were not mere folklore. They were a part of life. Before packing his bags, Ash stared out the window. Memories from his childhood flooded his mind. He remembered how his grandfather trained him, not only in arnis and the use of a BOLO, but in strengthening the spirit. His grandfather used to tell him, it's not just the body that must grow strong, as Ash. Your heart, your mind, your soul. If even one of them weakens, that's when you fall. Ash smiled faintly, though sadness lingered. That was long ago. Back then he was just a boy. Now, he was a lawyer, and it had been years since he last returned home. The next day, carrying a suitcase of his belongings, he traveled back to Apiao. Along the road, the echo of the village bells rang through the air, like a signal of a return that had long been awaited. When he arrived at the ancestral house, relatives welcomed him. Some were excited. Others looked at him coldly. "Look who's back," one cousin muttered. The Manila lawyer. There was humor in the tone, but bitterness as well. Ash simply smiled. "Good to see you're all still here," he replied. "I thought maybe everyone had moved to Manila already." He looked around the house. It was still the same. Wooden walls, massive pillars, ancient symbols carved into the beams, symbols meant to drive away evil. Inside, lying on a woven mat, was his grandfather. Pale, weak, but his eyes remained sharp. "Ash," the old man whispered. He gestured for Ash to come closer. As they spoke, memories of their family's history resurfaced in Ash's mind. The Tomas family was known not only as leaders of the village, but as warriors, guardians of the land, protectors not only against cruel men, but against creatures the villagers refused to even name. One of the things Ash heard upon arriving was this: Sangil, a type of a swain, a witch that hides in human form, but at night transforms into a savage beast. Recently, villagers claimed animals have been disappearing from the fields, dogs and pigs vanishing without a trace. Then there was the kiwik, a black pig with human eyes. It was said to appear during secret rituals deep in the forest. Anyone who met its gaze would die within a year. Sometimes it would even take the form of a humanoid, goat-like creature. Ash had grown up hearing these stories. As a boy, his grandfather made him believe them, trained him to fight them. But when Ash grew older, he abandoned those beliefs. He chose the law of men instead of the law of blood. But that night, his grandfather revealed the true reason he had been summoned home. It was not merely to hear his last will. He was there to inherit something greater than land or wealth. An anteing, a sacred charm kept inside a small pouch made of animal skin. A relic forged from the blood, sweat, and prayers of their ancestors. As the lawyer holding my final will, the old man whispered, "I entrust this to you as well as Ash. I will not force you to accept it, but I know you will know what to do." The room fell silent. Then a cousin named Rogelio spoke. "Why am uncle?" he snapped. "Ash lives in Manila. He hasn't been here for years. He doesn't know anything about the village anymore. We stayed here. We worked the land. We protected this place. And now someone else will harvest what we planted." Some relatives nodded in agreement. Others stayed silent. Ash could feel their burning stares, their resentment almost tangible. But before he could answer, a scream erupted outside the house. Everyone rushed out. Torches flickered in the darkness. In the distance, they found a hut, its walls torn apart as if shredded by enormous claws. The smell of blood filled the air. Inside, Ash's cousin Andoy was gone. Only bloodstains and claw marks remained. One villager whispered in terror. That wasn't done by a man. That wasn't a swang, and not an ordinary one. Ash froze. His mind, the mind of a lawyer trained to analyze evidence, began examining everything. The marks in the dirt were unnatural, large, like the tracks of something that was half beast, half human. He crouched down, studying them carefully, like an investigator assembling a case. It didn't attack randomly, he murmured. It chose its target. Another villager spoke quietly. That's the third death this month. They were all Tomas. Ash's eyes widened. So my suspicion is correct. Someone is targeting our bloodline. In the shadows of the forest, something was watching. And when Ash closed his eyes for a moment, he thought he heard a whisper carried by the wind. You're next. Days passed. Fear spread throughout Flora. One morning, farmers discovered 3 of the Tomas family's carabao slaughtered, their flesh torn apart, bones scattered, the smell of blood thick in the air. Again, people whispered the same thing. The Tomas family is being targeted. Ash noticed the growing anger among some of his cousins. Why is this only happening to us? One of them asked bitterly. Who benefits from all of this? The cousin's eyes slowly turned toward Ash. Ash clenched his fists. He didn't answer, but deep inside, he knew something was terribly wrong. Someone or something was orchestrating these attacks. A mastermind. With his 2 brothers, Ash began investigating, using the logic of a lawyer and the instincts of a warrior. Their search eventually led them to an isolated hut near the rice fields. The surroundings were unnaturally quiet. Even the village dogs refused to approach. Inside the hut, they found jars filled with rice mixed with nails and hair, and bottles of black liquid. Witchcraft, one brother whispered. Then suddenly, the door burst open. A man stood there holding a bow, like a hunter. But the terrifying part was not the weapon. It was what happened next. His body began to change. His face stretched. Bones protruded from his shoulders. His body swelled, growing nearly 3 times its size. The creature growled. A sandgill. Run, Ash shouted. But it was too late. The monster lunged forward. Ash dropped his gun and grabbed his BOLO. Bullets from his brother's rifle struck the creature, but they barely slowed it. The battle erupted. The sandgill leapt, its jaws nearly reaching Ash's neck. Then Ash remembered his grandfather's words. Do not fight it with strength. Fight it with movement. Outsmart it. At the exact moment the creature lunged again, Ash twisted his body and drove the BOLO into its side. The sandgill screamed and collapsed, bleeding heavily. But as Ash examined the corpse, something troubled him. This isn't the one killing our relatives, he whispered. It attacked us because it panicked. This is only part of a much bigger picture. Weeks later, Ash followed another lead deep into the forest. There, in the darkness, he saw a group of shamans surrounding a tied-up child. Beside them was a black pig. But when Ash looked closer, the pig had human eyes. His heart pounded. He knew exactly what it was. A kiwig. The creature suddenly turned its head, staring directly at him. Its body twisted and cracked. Bones reshaped. Horns sprouted from its skull. It transformed into a horrifying half-human, half-goat monster. Enemy, one shaman shouted. Ash fled through the forest, the creature chasing him. When finally caught up, he turned and fought. He threw salt from his pouch, forcing the monster to recoil. Then he fired his gun. Still not enough. So when the Kiwig lunged again, Ash met it head-on with his BOLO. After a brutal struggle, the monster finally collapsed. Dead, Ash carried the body back to the village. Standing before everyone, he shouted, "These are not just stories. These monsters are real, and they're here among us." Some villagers were terrified, others were amazed, but deep inside, Ash knew the truth. The real enemy was still out there, at the far end of the village. Rogelio watched with burning jealousy. His hatred for Ash had existed since childhood, and now that the family was beginning to respect him, that hatred only grew stronger. So one night, Rogelio secretly met with a man, an old but powerful hunter. Silent, cold, animals avoided him. His name was Ogpeo Killen, once a hero, once a friend of Datu Andres. But Rogelio didn't know the truth. Ogpeo Killen was no longer human. Years ago, desperation drove him to make a pact with the Aswang of the mountains. In exchange for power, he drank blood, and ever since, a terrible curse consumed him. At night his bones stretched, his jaw split open, his eyes turned red, and whenever he fed, he whispered the names of his victims. Like a twisted prayer. Days later, Rogelio invited Ash to drink. "Let's settle our differences, cousin." Ash accepted, but as the night deepened, Ash felt the air grow colder. Then he heard it, the sound of bones cracking. From the darkness emerged the Mumbaki, a powerful shaman covered in ancient Bebean tattoos, his body transforming into something monstrous. Rogelio ran away laughing drunkenly. "Ha ha! This is the end for you, Ash." The creature spoke. "You should never have come back, boy." Ash trembled, not from fear, but recognition. The monster before him was someone who had once stood beside his grandfather. "Tonight, I will feast on another Tomas. Your blood makes me stronger." Ash's eyes widened. "So it was you. You were the one killing my family." The creature attacked. A brutal battle followed. Punches, claws, bullets, blood spilled with every passing second. Eventually, Ash collapsed, badly wounded. As he lay there, the monster whispered the names of every Tomas he had killed, one by one, like sins carved into eternity. Then it laughed. "I will send your head to your grandfather." But at the last moment, Ash threw salt into its eyes and escaped. He returned to the ancestral house, barely standing. His grandfather called him close one last time. "Bring out the anting I gave you." The old man placed the sacred charm in Ash's hands. For a moment, it glowed. "May it guide you as it once guided me. Ash, you are now the..." Before he could finish, Dadu Andres breathed his last. The great warrior was gone. That night, the family argued over the inheritance. But Ash silenced them with one shout. "Our enemy is the Mumbaki. If we don't stand together, none of us will survive." Finally, the Tomas family united. They prepared their weapons. Under the full moon, the Mumbaki returned. Ash confronted him in the forest. Their final battle shook the night. The anting glowed, empowering Ash's BOLO. After a brutal fight, Ash stood victorious. The monster lay defeated beneath him. "Kill me," the Mumbaki begged weakly. "I'm tired of my sins." Ash raised his BOLO. "Ask my grandfather for forgiveness, but I doubt you'll meet him." Then he drove the blade into the monster's chest. The villagers burned the body with salt and oil. The curse ended. Exhausted and bloodied, Ash knelt. His family bowed before him. Warrior Legislator, Ernesto said, "Lead us well." Days later, they buried Dato Andres beneath a Nara tree. Ash remained alone by the grave, holding the anting, but deep in the forest. Red Eyes watched. A voice whispered in the darkness, "So, that is Andres' successor." The tribe of Aswang was stirring once again. And thus ends the story of Reverson Ash Tomas, the warrior legislator. Wait, before you move on to the next video, do you remember Maximus, Carlo, Art, and Mark? And there's even a bonus appearance from Jericho Alvarez. What if I told you that all of these legendary characters will eventually intertwine in one epic story? Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing Filipino tales, folklore, and true stories from my culture. The Philippines is a land filled with mystery, old beliefs, and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. Through this channel, I hope I can share a small part of those stories with all of you. If this story gave you chills, or reminded you of something strange that happened in your own life, then maybe the world is more mysterious than we think. If you enjoy Filipino horror stories, folklore, and real paranormal experiences, and you don't mind that these stories are narrated using an AI voice, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. And if you have your own scary experience, something you can't explain, something that still haunts you until today, you can send your story to my Facebook page, Dilaw na Kandila Pinoy Komiks. I read your messages, and some of them may become the next story featured here on this channel. Remember, sometimes the most terrifying stories are not the ones we imagine. Sometimes they are the ones that really happened. This is Sir Sig, and thank you for listening to Dilaw na Kandila Pinoy Komiks. Until the next story, keep the lights low and keep the candle burning.